So now y'all come into my kitchen. This is Cooking Today. Hi, welcome to Cooking Today. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I hope that you have plans and that you are going to be surrounded by family and friends and that you are completely ready to celebrate and feast and that you have your stretchy pants cleaned and dried and ready to go. We will feast at the Hannon house always. Last week, I actually made two of my sisters-in-law's very best side items, a good sweet potato souffle and a good corn. And we can't have the week of Thanksgiving without a pumpkin pie, right? I mean, it's iconic, it's legendary, it's classic, it's a must-have. And so today, I'm gonna make a cream cheese and crumble pumpkin pie. So not your regular old run-of-the-mill pumpkin pie, but something that's been a little bit zhuzhed up, kind of fun. And y'all, the cream cheese in that pumpkin, it just gives this little tang, and there's this great texture. It's kind of whipped and a little bit more dense. It's not as light as your regular pumpkin pie. It feels a little bit like weightier, definitely more filling. And then I cover the top of it in this really good crumb. As a matter of fact, if you watched last week, I made my sister-in-law's sweet potato souffle that has this praline, like buttery praline topping on it. And I even said, if you're smart, you'll save this recipe, just the crumble on the top, because you can put it on all kinds of things. That's what we're doing today. We're putting that same crumb right on top of a delicious creamy pumpkin pie. Isn't that fun? So when I said you can get creative with that crumble topping that goes on top of those sweet potatoes from last week, I meant it. So I'm going to show you how we do it today. Now, let's talk about pie crusts. You are welcome to make your own. Absolutely, I am such a proponent of homemade pie crust. I've made them here several times before. And for the holiday season, I usually have them made in advance and I have them sitting in my fridge ready to go. But you can also take a really good shortcut and do a store-bought pie crust. With all of your other prep going on, if you have to make a shortcut, I think that this is a suitable one. I know there will be people that will just, die when they hear me say that, but I think it's a suitable shortcut, y'all. I really do, especially when you fill it with really good homemade, creative, kind of amped up ingredients. You're not going to know. You are not going to know. So I have a 9-inch pie dish, a classic size. We've talked about that before. A classic sized pie dish, not a deep dish, not a 10-inch big boy that you could basically bake like, scalloped potatoes in. Just a regular pie dish is what we want. And then I have taken a refrigerated pie dough and just let it sit at room temperature for a few minutes so that I can unroll it without it tearing. It's really nice and tender. And then I have laid it and kind of fit it down into my pie dish like that, okay? And then you can crimp. You can take little cutouts. They make all kinds of neat little doodads these days that you can like make little pressed cookies or like little shapes, leaves, faces, nuts, like whatever you want. And you can do that if you'd like, or you can just fold it over and go old school. I've made a raspberry crumble pie on here before too. Oh, that's kind of in the same vein. Delish. Obviously, I love a little crumb, don't I? I love a crumb. And a couple of weeks ago when I made that pie, I told you that I just am kind of the mindset of old school pie. I don't care if it's fancy. I don't care if the edge is too cutesy. I'm kind of a classic girl. So the more homemade and the more rustic that it looks, the better in my opinion. And it takes off all the pressure. That's what our grannies did. They just were about good taste, and that's what matters. So I just set my pie dough down inside my pie dish, and then I went around and tucked it all in. And I like to take my fingers and really press it into your pie dish because it kind of helps it hold without slipping down. And we're going to do a trick here in a second to help with that even. But I just take my fork with the tines and I just go around like this. It's about as old-fashioned as you can get, and it takes 5 seconds. And that's what I like. Good taste and simple. Okay, here we go. So here's that. Now, I'm taking that same fork and I'm just going to dock my pie crust just the littlest bit because it helps it keep it from bubbling up. And so we're just going to go right around the pie, and that's called docking. And I'm just going to poke some holes in it. Okay, look how simple that is. I mean, that's so, so, so easy, right? All pies are beautiful in the eyes of the Lord. I'm just kidding. All pies are beautiful in the eyes of me, for sure. Now, what we want to do on this is we want to par bake it. We're going to blind bake our crust. And what that means is we have our oven preheated, and I'm taking a piece of parchment and wadding it up, and then opening it back up, and just gently laying it in here. And then I'm just going to weight it with ceramic pie weights. We have these at Unimaze. You could do dried beans even. It just kind of helps hold the pie crust down. And I'm going to stick that in my 375-degree oven for about 10 minutes, and that's it. And then it's going to bake just a little bit, but not completely, and then we'll pull it back out and make our filling. So we'll work on that when we come back. This is Cooking Today. Hi, welcome back to Cooking Today. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Can't be Thanksgiving without a pumpkin pie. So that's what we're making today, and not just any pumpkin pie. We're making a cream cheese pumpkin pie with a crumb topping on it that is really delicious, y'all. It's rich. That cream cheese gives it just this little bit of a tang in it, and it changes the texture. And then that crumb topping, I mean, crumb topping is my love language. I put it on anything I can find to throw it on top of and eat it. I've even eaten the fork that I've mixed it with. I mean, it's just delicious. It's one of my favorites. I mean, generally speaking, a crumb topping is some kind of sugar, a fat like butter, I don't know, vanilla, a nut of some kind, sometimes oats, which I really love oats in these too. And so what's not to love about it? It basically kind of tastes like a cookie dough or like a shortbread, like a shortbread dough. It's delicious. So we have a pie crust that we filled, we've put into our pie dish, docked it, so we poked little holes with it in our, with a fork, and then I put a piece of parchment paper and weighted it down with pie weights, and we're just doing a little par bake, blind bake technique so that we get a little bit of the bake on our crust. That way we're not pouring a wet filling directly into a raw, unbaked crust, because sometimes that really struggles to bake and get a little bit of crisp on the bottom, and sometimes it can get soggy. So we're going to get a little bit of the baking process going, and that crust is not going to be too dark. It's going to be just a little bit dried out. Oh, it's ready. I can show you instead of just telling you. Just the littlest bit puffed up, dried out just a little bit, and it's going to receive our real creamy filling a whole lot better. Here, let's look. And here is what I'll tell you. If you were to bake this pie without the weights in it, like if you were just to put your crust in and then not put your weights in it, then what's going to happen is 9 times out of 10, your crust is going to shrink. And that is a heartbreak waiting to happen, and we don't want to do that. So let me show you, through my linen, what this is going to look like. Okay? Ooh, I got a full cabinet right here. Look at all this countertop. So what I do with this, okay, the reason that I wadded up that parchment is because it just helps it kind of fill the space rather than just laying in a full sheet. Kind of loosens it up and gives it kind of some nooks and crannies so that when you open it back up, it kind of lays in there a little bit better. And these are hot. Like, those are my ceramic pie weights, so they're 375 degrees right now. But I just lift that up and see how we've just kind of gotten the bake started. Okay? So we're just going to let that camp out right there. It's hot, so I'm going to ooch it. There we go. Now, that can just hang out right there for just a minute. We leave our oven on 375. So we're going to start on our filling. So what I have is 8 ounces of cream cheese that I actually left out overnight because it really needs to be silky smooth. If your cream cheese is not room temperature, not just softened, room temperature is what we're going for, then you're going to get those little clumps and it's not going to be really, really smooth, and that's what we want, okay? So we have cream cheese and we have sugar, and I'm going to do a tablespoon of vanilla in here. This is fun, y'all. I can't wait. I'm kind of waiting. I'm holding some fun information for you on this cream cheese mixture because it's really fun what we're going to do with it in just a minute. So we have a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of milk, and y'all, for all of my holiday baking and cooking, I use whole ingredients, so I always have whole milk. We drink 2%, but I always have a whole in my refrigerator for all my baking and all that. And then we have some flour that's going to go in. Okay? Now, what we want to do is give this a good mix. You're going to need your bowl scraper because you're going to want to scrape your bowl, you know, like the sides of your bowl, and even kind of get down into the bottom of your mixer as this is mixing. And then we're going to add in our pumpkin. And you're really going to want to get down in there because you don't want to pour your filling into your pie and see that half of the cream cheese mixture is in the bottom, because that would be sad. Okay, so because my cream cheese was room temperature, that just whips beautifully smooth. So I'm going to take 1 second to scrape my bowl because I practice what I preach. I'm going to get under there and make sure that all that gets out. And then we're going to give this one more whir of this cream cheese mixer. Now, what's so fun about this cream cheese? We're going to reserve a half a cup of it because we're going to dollop it in the top of our pumpkin pie filling, and we're going to drag it and make it look all marbly and beautiful. Isn't that fun? And we'll do that when we get back. So I'm going to reserve some of this. When we come back, we're going to mix in the rest of our pumpkin. We're going to stick it in the oven. We're going to make our crumb topping. It's going to be beautiful. It's Thanksgiving. This is Cooking Today. Hi, welcome back. Making a cream cheese pumpkin pie with this really great crumble topping on it. And we've already gotten our pie crust par-baked. We just got a little bit of bake on it so that it kind of receives this really good puddingy, liquidy, pumpkin-y filling without getting just completely soaking wet soggy, because nobody wants that, right? Nobody likes a soggy bottom. Ha-ha. So we have our cream cheese, right? And we have that mixed, and we've gotten it really nice and fluffy, and we added in some sugar and some vanilla. And then I reserved a half of a cup because we're going to swirl that in the top in just a minute. And so then to our cream cheese mixture, what's left in here, it's going to go into our pumpkin pie filling. Isn't that fun? So I added 3 eggs to it. And then I have a 15-ounce can. 15 ounces, right? Yeah, 15-ounce can of pumpkin puree. Now this is super important. When you're buying your pumpkin, it's usually in the baking aisle. Buy the ready-made pie crust, you know, that you can buy like in the foil containers. There is pumpkin pie filling, and then there is 100% pumpkin pie, pumpkin. And you want the 100% pumpkin puree, not pumpkin pie filling, because pumpkin pie filling, they've already added in all kinds of flavorings and things like that that we don't want, because we're going to add them in ourselves. It's a different texture, and so you don't want to do that. 100% pumpkin, okay? Don't forget, important. So we've added that into our cream cheese mixture and our eggs. Kind of making a little mess here. And then I'm giving that a little whir. Cream cheese is heavier and it's going to stick to the bottom, so you need to be sure to get in there with your bowl scraper. And then as that's going, I'm going to add in about 1.5 teaspoons of, this is like a baking blend that we sell at Unimaze, but basically it is cinnamon, nutmeg, and ginger. It's kind of a one in all, like for all your baking. And then I'm going to throw in a little bit of cloves, because you cannot have pumpkin pie without ground cloves, y'all. So important. You would miss it if you didn't put it in there. Okay? So we're kind of stirring it. We're going to get in here with our bowl scraper. I'm going to go ahead and take everything that's on that board. We don't want to miss that, do we? And then I'm going to get in here and I'm going to fold and I'm going to scrape and I'm going to get really down in there. Yeah, because right now it looks marbled. It's not incorporated, and we really want this to be incorporated. Okay. Get that off of there. We're going to go one more whir. Oh, look, I made a mess. I told y'all. I just got stuff everywhere, don't I? Okay, this should be the last good whir in our mixer. Looking good, looking good. Then what we want to do is take our pie crust. Yeah, that looks good. Oh my goodness, y'all. This is Thanksgiving, isn't it? Totally, totally, totally. We're going to take our filling and pour it into our pie crust. This is the fun part. Pour it in our pie crust and just give it a little smooth out. I'm going to get all that. We want a good full pie, don't we? Okay. Now, see the reason that I say that you can't use a pie plate that's really, really big or really, really deep? Because it wouldn't fill your pan, and that would not be good, would it? Okay, look, so we're going to smooth this out a little bit, and then here's the fun part. I take a little scoop. You know, we use these to make cookies sometimes. And I'm just going to polka dot the top of my pie with cream cheese mixture. And then you can take a knife or a skewer. As a matter of fact, I didn't grab one, but I'm going to grab one. We have metal, like kebab skewers. Look how fun that is. It doesn't matter where they are or if they're even equal. I'm going to grab a kebab skewer. Or a big, big toothpick, whatever you've got. And then we are going to just start marbling our cream cheese mixture. I just kind of swirl and swirl and swirl and change directions and grab the one in the center. And it just kind of adds a little fun color. And I'll tell you another thing, because we're going to put our crumb on, and it's going to kind of fill the center, I like to drag this marbling kind of to the outside so that when the crumb is on the top and the middle, you can still get a peek of the marbling. And you just kind of swirl it. It's kind of fun, huh? Just adds one more little extra flavor. It'll be that kind of thing where you're like, what exactly am I tasting? It's just really good. This is super simple. This is going in the oven, uncovered at 375 for about 35 to 40 minutes until the sides have kind of puffed up and the center looks kind of dried out and just set. Then we pull it out of the oven, top it very gently, pile it with our crumb that's going on the top, and then put it back in the oven for about another 10 minutes. That last 10 minutes kind of bakes the inside and it cooks that crumb down and all the butter melts down. The crumb is easy. We've done it before. I did it last week. It's butter, brown sugar, flour, and chopped pecans. That's it. And we're just going to crumb it up, stick it on in a couple of minutes, and we come back, we're going to have the most beautiful pumpkin pie. This is cooking today. Hi, welcome back. We're just finishing up the most beautiful cream cheese pumpkin pie with a crumble. So let me tell you, we made our little cream cheese mixture. We swirled it into the top of the pie and we put it in this crust. Remember how we did that? Look at this fun little swirl action we've got going. So we let that bake for about 35 minutes or 40 minutes until the center is just almost set. You don't want it to be jiggly or look real wet because if you pull it out, that whole thing will sink. And then we mixed our easy crumb topping. We've made it on here before. And I like to use my fingers and just gently make some big globs. Now listen, there's a lot of crumb and that's what we want. We want it piled up and clumped and clustered all around the pie, loaded up because we're gonna stick it back in the oven for about 10 minutes, 12 minutes or so. And we want that to just cook that down, and it's gonna melt that butter, and it's gonna ooch out all over the place. And we're gonna cover this whole thing with all this crumb. Then we're gonna remove it from the oven, and it needs to chill. It needs to come to room temperature for at least an hour, and then chill for 4 hours before you cut it. Serve it cold. I've already made one in a throwaway pan because I'm gonna make one and share one. You're gonna wanna serve it cold. And I even think that if you could make a homemade, delicious whipped cream, and do a little sprinkle of cinnamon right on top, it just screams holiday season. I'm gonna keep crumbing the top of this pie. We're gonna cut and serve that one. And I hope that you are surrounded by friends and family and that you have the very best holiday season ever. We have a lot to be grateful for. This is Cooking Today.